Prime TV, I'm Alicia Fernandez. Well, in today's episode, we are discussing a very important topic. I think somewhere deep down, many people have come across this particular topic of moving abroad, either for study or for work purpose. However, there have been maybe a very good instance or maybe very bad instances about how to go about with this particular procedure. So to discuss more about this, we have with us today Rashmi Patil, who's a registered migration agent from the Overseas Education and Immigration Services Australia. Rashmi, welcome to Prime TV.
Thank you very much, Alicia. It's a pleasure to be here.
Rashmi, to begin with, like I mentioned at the start, being here in Goa, a lot of people have always tried to, either move abroad either for education purpose or for that matter, say, for work purpose. So, now, first things first, before we get into how and what is the procedure and how to go about with it. Tell us about how exactly did you venture into this particular field of registered migration agent?
Okay. Primarily, I believe that, education and immigration have a very huge impact on people's lives and their careers. So it was very interesting, and it is one of the unique ways of connecting with diverse people from different countries, people from different backgrounds, and build network and good relationships. So I thought it was one of the best industries to get into.
Okay, so but then if you have a closer look, I think if you could just brief us through, at the initial stage to now, how has the things transformed in this particular journey of yours?
Okay, so
when did you start working, and from there to now?
Actually, I'd like to tell you how I started. Okay, it's a very interesting story. This is way back when there was no Google. Okay. That was the time I actually applied for Australian, not migration, but a very basic visitor visa. I handed over my passport. Okay, and at that time, really, no Google, you really couldn't find out most of the details. I handed over my passport to someone I knew who was an agent, who handed it over to somebody else who actually did the work. They asked me to come to Delhi for an interview at the embassy. Okay, and this is really way back. I think 20 years or a little less than 20 years ago. And I stayed in Delhi for 1 month. Okay,
1 month,
waiting to be called for an interview, just to get a visitor visa. Forget about migration, forget about long-term visas. Okay, and there was no news. So finally, I went to a registered migration agent in Delhi. Okay, and that gentleman, he told me that your application has not even been submitted. After staying in Delhi for a month. So, oh my God, so that really came in as a shock. I really felt the need at that point in time itself that, okay, we got to do something about it. There has to be transparency. People have to be liable for what they commit. So it was very important. I thought that this industry, there are so many fly-by-night operators in these kind of industries. So that's where my journey began, when I got my permanent residency to Australia, when I did my final paperwork, and that's when I started my journey into the immigration and even overseas education for students. So
okay, so how exactly would you say, now that you said you came across some agent who was not maybe the apt for your particular thing, they told you come over, stay over there for 1 month, and they went on and on. But then how would you identify this one is a correct agent, or this one is the right agent that I'm supposed to go? How did you identify your registered migration agent?
Right. Alicia, I very strongly believe we are in the best age. We have access to so many things, and especially Google. You just basically got to go out there and figure out whether somebody is authorized. Now, every country, every government has their own authorized consultants. Okay, so for example, New Zealand has IAA. Okay, it's a advisory basically of it's a basically panel of advisors. Now Canada has RCIC, Regulated Canadian Immigration Consultants. Australia has MARA, Migration Agents Registration Authority. So if you go on the MARA website, okay, you will find my photograph, you will find my contact details, you will find my email ID. So now I have clients from all over the world, right? So how do I really manage and connect with them and prove to them that I am authentic? So they just, we send them these links. We send the government links, right? It's pretty simple. So, and it's the same email ID, it's the same face, so we do have Google Meets. Now, like I said, life is very convenient now. So it's so much easier, and yet people go to the agents who are not. I'm not saying come to us. I'm saying whenever, to whoever you go to, please make sure that you go to authorized people.
Correct.
So even for the education industry, like in India, there is a body called ARI. Okay, there are peer certified agents. There are, I think, NESF. So, people who are a part of associations that are recognized. Make it a point to, go to these people who are recognized rather than going to somebody random. Okay, do your background check. So that's something
because
that I would definitely.
A lot of money is also involved in this entire process.
Absolutely.
Right, from maybe, initially putting forth your papers to get into the application phase to the final stage. There's a lot of money that is involved.
Absolutely. And you're also sharing your confidential data like your passports, all your, very important documents.
True. So now when you, for elders, we have a medium, they can find out. Now for the students' perspective, now they want to go abroad to study. So how exactly does that procedure works, or how does it actually goes about?
Okay, so when it comes to students, it could be, they want to go to any country. What I always tell the students is that please do your research. First, identify your area of interest. Okay, do your research. Try and understand what that course is all about. Okay, identify what course you want to do. Now, once you've identified your course, you also need to figure out which country you should go to, because does that country have a scope for your area of expertise or interest. Okay, so identify the right country. Okay, once you've identified the right country, there are so many other factors that come into picture. Let's say we talk about primarily the academic prerequisites. Okay, whether you meet the percentage requirements for the university that you've shortlisted. Okay, whether you meet the English requirements or the language requirements, because for Germany, countries like Germany, there are specific requirements. So do your groundwork, and also please do not forget to do your financial viability matrix. Is this course, is this country suitable for your pockets? Very important to know. If not, don't waste your time. Identify something where, something that works out for you and which is beneficial for you. Also, different governments, they have something called stay back options, post-study work visas. So if you've studied for a certain duration, a certain courses, they will give you work rights for, let's say, 2 years, 4 years, 5 years. And that, in my experience, I always say this, that work experience in those countries is very crucial and important, because that actually takes you to a platform where you get an exposure to so many new technologies, areas, so many advancements that you come across. So it is very, very crucial that you do all these groundwork before you make a decision
of going abroad. You should not be like with a herd mentality, like everybody is going, I want to go too, which happens a lot of times. Even when we see it's always like, as it is said, the grass is green on the other side.
Very true.
So always it feels like that, if you go abroad, that this is ultimate thing, I'm going to get paid in X amount on a regular basis, and that's fast money that's going to come in.
Right.
But like you truly mentioned that, planning yourself is much more important, that you will be able to sustain over there.
Correct.
Ideally, whether with finances or whether, the standard of living of that particular country.
Or may it be weather.
Weather too, exactly.
May it be weather, because I've seen people who cannot adjust to the cold weathers, and then they want to come back. Now that doesn't help.
Agreed. So in this whole thing now, one is an aspect of education overseas that somebody looks at. Also there's something called as, your immigration services. So when we have a closer look at the immigration services, there's a lot of rules and regulations which keep changing on regular basis. So if in this entire procedure, how would a student prepare himself for the immigration laws? What do you feel about it? How can they prepare themselves for it in advance?
Okay, So I will actually categorize it into two separate areas. One would be directly the migrants, okay, where even without a job offer, there are multiple countries where you can actually apply and you can get a direct permanent residency even without job offers. Okay, so it is very, migration is a very complex subject. Okay, so if you as an individual are trying to, who is not from the background, like for me, I have studied migration law. Okay, I'm certified as a migration lawyer, consultant. So basically, go to people who know the subject and who are registered, like I said earlier. Because, and again, if you want to update yourself, for us, if we have to update ourselves, we go through something called CPDs, continuous professional developments. We have to do it every year because the law and policy keeps on changing. So unless we've completed our CPDs, we cannot re-register. We have a renewal every year.
Very nice.
So we cannot renew our license till we complete the CPDs.
So, but that is place-centric, like a country-centric, or it is like global?
Now, every country has its own processes. So there will be CPDs for every country migration, because migration law itself is a very complex subject, like I said. So it is everywhere. Everyone who's registered goes through this process. There are a lot of OSLI or LegendCom. There are all these platforms, all these portals that we can use to update ourselves. There are so many new legislative instruments on the government website. So we are always on the roll. We're always updating our knowledge, which is also a part of our code of conduct as registered agents, because it is our responsibility to give correct guidance to the applicant, and it's our overriding duty to work in the best interest of a client over anything else. So, considering that, it's always good to go to somebody who's registered.
Okay, so now moving on from this aspect of it, if you could give us a brief surrounds of, I think you also your experience as a director of Escala Realty India Private Limited. If you could tell us about your experience over there, how did it all start for you over there?
Okay, actually, I'll be very honest. The credit goes to my business partner, Mr. Amit Chopra. He's the founder. So we started Escala Realty India Private Limited here in Goa.
Oh, okay.
Yes, this is way back now. And he has very in-depth knowledge. In fact, I do not know if you've heard of the Goa Association of Realtors. He was the founder, chairman, and he has played a very pivotal role. When we started, we did all the groundwork to form the association, representing people, because there is a lot of, when it comes to properties, it's very important that when people come here, you give them the clear title properties, So all that groundwork was required. So we've done a lot of groundwork there. So it's been a beautiful journey, and here actually, and there's another partner, Shiju Augustin. So, I would definitely give them huge credit towards the success of Escala.
Which is beautiful, I think. So, if you could give any particular advice, especially for those aspiring entrepreneurs who want to come into this particular field, what are the things that you want to keep in mind?
Okay, so if you're talking about coming into the migration field, every country normally has a requirement that you hold permanent residency, a green card, to be eligible here, especially with Australia, that I can say that you have to be a permanent resident of that place. So you need to go through the process. If it's an overseas education provider, then I would say that yes, go and panel yourself on good platforms. Do your studies like peer online. Peer, it's even an online process, but you got to answer an exam. Okay. So when you answer that exam, that you are updated with the requirements, you're updated with the processes. So end of the day, when a client, a student, whoever comes to you, they are also assured that yes, you are the person and they've come to the right person.
So in all of this now, I think you must have handled so many cases already, right?
Yes.
As a migration agent.
Yes.
What was the most challenging thing that you have come across in this particular field of yours?
Okay.
I know very elaborate, descriptive it will be, but if you could just tell it, because it will be a very good platform for our audience to know about it.
In fact, I have 2 such stories.
Okay.
And I will not go far. I will talk about these 2 women from Goa.
Okay.
Okay. One of them, she came to me, okay, a single mother. Okay, she had applied for migration to Australia 8 years ago. All right. She approached me and she said, yes, and nothing has happened. I said, it is not going to take so long. It definitely doesn't take so long. And she came to me because her agent asked for the next installment of payment, and she had already paid more than 10 lakhs for the process. So I got into the system. She authorized me to, because we cannot access anyone's information. She has to authorize me. She authorized me to do so, and I checked it into the system. Her application was refused some good 5 years ago, and she was still being charged, and she was still paying the agent. So, these are very troubling stories for us, and I could see how she was trying to make a life for herself, for her children. So that's something that.
So, but then how can one identify this?
That's where you see, we as registered agents, okay, are all the registered consultants are monitored by the governments. So there is, everything is on record. Absolutely. Even when things like, even if we charge a client, the money stays in something called a client account, and the client account does not earn any interest till we complete the block of work. Is when it is transferred to the OPEX account after generating a statement of service. So there are systems in place for people who are registered, and we have to follow the code of conduct. So the way to go is go to people who are registered.
And is there any way, like you said, one way is that they have to identify them on the basis of their country, because they're already registered with the government.
Right.
Of that. That is one of the only ways in
That's
which you
one of the best ways. Of course, there's content online, but that will not give you the status of your application. So if you ask me, I send everyone, whenever I've lodged an application, I send them their application details. I send them their TRN numbers, which are, the tracker numbers basically. So, but not everybody does. If you're registered, then we do send. The others, they don't bother. So, and people are not aware that there are tracker numbers to your application.
So every application has a tracker number?
Has to have a tracker number.
Has to have, okay.
Yes.
Okay.
It's a must. There is another story which was very satisfying actually. There was this lady, she was married to an Australian citizen. She had a daughter being one parent being an Australian citizen, the daughter got an Australian citizenship automatically because she was born there.
Oh, okay.
These are all legally things that happen, which are, the laws in place. But she was not an Australian citizen.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the relationship fell apart. So what happens now is, because the daughter is an Australian citizen, the husband could have taken the child to Australia and she would not have an access to her child. And she had already applied for a partner visa, but for a partner visa, it is important that you have an ongoing relationship. So once your relationship has fallen apart, you obviously are not eligible for the partner visa.
Okay.
However, like I said, it's a complex subject, and we figured out ways legally, okay, and I made sure she got a permanent residency. And these are things which actually give you joy and satisfaction. These are all complex applications, and they really make me happy when I'm able to help, when I'm able to do something, because in that situation it would be a mother away from a child, which is a very difficult situation. So yeah. These kind of complex cases definitely are the joy of our work.
Indeed. So I know that you, like you already said, you have a lot of cases and you have a lot of stories like this maybe. Is now that you have mentioned to audience about what are the things that one needs to keep in mind also simultaneously. So how can this be applicable for their day-to-day life in terms of now suppose if I'm planning to go shift now, on immediate basis I want to shift.
Right.
So does immediacy happens in any case of yours, or it takes time usually? the duration, what is the duration or the time frame that one needs to keep in mind? It will not happen overnight. That is one thing is for sure. So how can we, put forth with regard to the date and the duration of it?
Right. See, so we're basically talking about global processing times for any of the categories. Now, every category will have a different time frame. Okay, the turnaround time for, let's say, students. Okay, I always tell the students, if it's the students, start at least 1 year in advance. Many reasons. Okay, let's say you want to go ahead and do your master's program. Okay, how do you prove to the government, whichever country that you want to go to, that you are a genuine student? And why do you want to really study this particular specialization? So if when you're doing your bachelor's, let's say, this is just a random example. Yeah, so then if you want to do a particular specialization, when you're doing your project in your bachelor's, you go ahead and, work on that specialization area as your project. It does say, right? It's from somewhere. Or go do some courses. There are so many online courses out there. Coursera, of course, the recognized one. So you can go ahead and do some small little courses, gain further knowledge. So that's how you prove yourself. And then again, there are English exams that you got to prepare for. There are other exams which certain universities may want you to answer. So if you have to do all this, you need time and you need planning. You need to prepare in advance. So with students, I always say at least minimum 1 year in advance is when you got to start preparing.
Okay, so, and in terms of a person who wants to work abroad?
Now, work visas for multiple countries have very different time frames, but work visas are somewhere in the range of 3 to 6 months. Okay.
3 to 6 months generally. If everything works
sometimes even faster, sometimes, that's the general overall frame, because, now if okay, let's say a country, let's say Canada, okay, wants to hire someone from overseas. Firstly, an employer will have to prove to the government that there is a shortage of local Canadians.
Oh, okay.
Right? Because then how would you justify? So the employers, now same with Australia, the employer will have to prove to the government that they have sufficient funds to hire someone from overseas. They have, there is a shortage of, let's say for example, mechanical engineers. There is a shortage of mechanical engineers, and that is why they have to prove that entire process, how they made an effort to recruit someone local, and then comes the final visa application into the picture. So there are processes involved for everything. I always tell this, please do not look for something instant, okay? It doesn't happen. People may make lots of promises that, okay, kal ho jayega.
Yeah, fly overnight.
Absolutely, no, it doesn't happen. If you're going legally, follow the proper processes, make sure the document you have is authentic, and then, give it time.
Indeed. I think the entire interview has been very much interesting, and I think we've covered upon several aspects which our audience has been educated upon, and I'm sure they're going to take back something really amazing from this. Before you leave, any particular message that you would like to give to the people watching you?
I would definitely like to say one thing, especially the women, please go out there. There is nothing called being too ambitious. There is nothing wrong in wanting to have the cake, eating it too. Nothing wrong. There is no harm in being extremely ambitious, as long as your integrity, your moral compass points to north. Okay, be yourself. Don't have to fit into a mold. You do exactly what you need to do. So that's something that I'd definitely like to say. In fact, to everyone, why just women?
Definitely. I think that is something which people will definitely take back, and also the important information that you have given, I think, across the globe. You have told us about the various areas where one can register, the registered agents can be identified, and at the same time also what are the things one needs to keep in mind when you're planning for your travel for the education purpose or maybe for work purpose abroad. So thank you so much, Rashmi, for taking time off and coming to our studio. It was great having you on the show.
Thank you very much, Alicia.
Well, keep watching your favorite channel, Prime. Keep watching Prime.